Okay, hello everybody and welcome to this month's special collection spotlight session. In a move that will probably not surprise any of you, I've decided that for the October spotlight session we're going to be looking at some of the more spooky and macabre books in the collection. So this month's session is based around ghosts and ghouls, just in time for Halloween. So I've got out 4 items to show you, and the first one that I want to show you is this one here. Many of the books in the collection that relate to ghosts and ghouls are obviously fiction books, and this is one of these, one of the oldest of them. This, as you can see, is entitled The Ghost Seer! By Schiller. It's translated from the German of Friedrich Schiller. This particular edition was published in 1831, and it is the story in 2 volumes which have been bound together into this one book. Now, there's no name of a translator in this particular edition, and it's basically just a early 19th century translation of a work that was originally written in German. Now, the original work was called Der Geisterseher, and it was an unfinished novel that was published in periodical form from 1786 onwards. It was then published as a book in 1789, but still remained unfinished without an ending. It's a book that's written in the first person. It's written. It's an account that apparently has been given by the Count of O. In that way, the 18th and 19th century books had. It doesn't have the full name, but it's a story of a German prince who visited Venice at carnival time and was preyed upon by a Jesuit secret society who were trying to convert the Protestant prince to Catholicism and thereby extend the power of Catholicism into Germany. So this book does explore philosophical and religious themes, and the author, Schiller, quite often gave critiques of religion and society, which he does in this book. So Schiller is Johann Christoph Friedrich von Schiller, or Friedrich Schiller, as he's often translated into English. He lived from 1759 to 1805, and he was a poet and a philosopher, a historian and a playwright. And he was also a good friend of Goethe. His philosophy could be described as being liberal and cosmopolitan, and a lot of the works that he published were philosophical works. So this was what he was mostly interested in. This book, however, was popular not so much for the philosophical content, but for the particularly over-the-top Gothic elements that were that came through the story. And I suspect it would have annoyed Schiller somewhat to know that this was by far his most popular work. This is the one that most people read and that was most popular in his lifetime and afterwards. So I picked up this particular book partly because of the fantastic pictures that are on the frontispiece. So this here is an image. I should just read the inscription at the bottom. So the Ghost Seer, the skeleton. He stretched his hand towards a near coffin. Suddenly the lid made a rattling noise and fell to the ground. The Greek lady instantly appeared. So we have these very Gothic illustrations to go with the story, which is also quite, as I say, quite Gothic. This book was published in 1831. We do actually have a second copy of the same story. So this is a different translation. This was published in 2003 by Pushkin Press, who quite often pick up out-of-print works or works in foreign languages to be translated into English. So this is another translation, a new modern translation of the same book that has been translated in this earlier work. And this has a portrait of Schiller in the front, which is quite interesting. So here he is, Friedrich Schiller. And this has, as is now much more common, has the name of the translator. And this is a modern translation. This is a translation into much more modern language. It's much easier to read for a modern reader, but it follows the same plot, the same storyline as this first book. So this is one of our earlier books that are fiction works that involve ghosts and men who see ghosts.